What's up, guys? Welcome to the Second Take. I'm Zach.
And I'm Jonah.
And we have some great basketball games to talk about today, and also a major societal issue. So let's get started with the weekend review. Jordan Spieth is back and better than ever. Alabama was finally heard with their Ole Miss cheating allegations. Basketball, well, there's just not that much to say about that. It's been pretty much perfect. Everything you could ask for. Hockey has led us to the Penguins and the Sharks fighting for Lord Stanley's Cup. And another tragic death to a New Orleans athlete with the death of Bryce Deshaun Jones. And finally, Baylor hits the national spotlight for all the wrong reasons. So let's get started with the Warriors Thunder. What better way to start? So the question I have to you, Jonah, is did the Thunder blow it or did the Warriors win it? You can use this as just talking about Game 6 or talk about the whole series. Obviously, Game 7 hasn't happened yet, but that'll be tonight.
I think if we're talking about Game 6, I think for the most part the Warriors won it. I think they showed a lot of heart in Game 6 down the stretch, coming back from 13 points down in the fourth quarter. Obviously, Kevin Durant had one of the worst games I've seen from him in a while, so certainly contributed. But I think this is the Steph and the Clay that we're used to seeing. This is the guys that were thought to be unbeatable, themselves again. And I would say mostly that the Warriors won it. I don't know, if you're a basketball fan, you're happy that the series is going 7, pretty much no matter what. I mean, to be able to have the privilege of watching 7 games of these two teams play is incredible.
Right. So, just some stats to talk about this. So OKC all year long blew the most fourth quarter leads of any team.
Yeah.
I think the final number was 16 in the regular season. So 16 games they were leading in the fourth quarter and ended up losing the game. And most people blamed it on what they called hero ball, which is like KD gives the ball to Russ and he goes and stands in the corner and Russ goes one-on-one or vice versa. So in my opinion, they got back to that a little bit in Game 6, or a lot actually. So 13 offensive possessions in the last 5 minutes for OKC. They passed the ball 1 or fewer times on 12 of those 13 possessions. And Russ had 4 of those possessions where he didn't give up the ball a single time. And in those 4 possessions of Russ, he had 3 turnovers, which were all in the last 55 seconds of the game, and 1 air ball. And then KD and Russ combined for 2 points and 6 turnovers over those last 5 minutes. So that's about the worst 5 minutes of basketball you could ever have in your life. And those are 2 top 5 players in the NBA. So that's probably a little scary for Thunder fans with what they saw all year long. Klay Thompson. Yeah. Klay Thompson had probably the best and most pressure-packed shooting night of all time and answered the bell every single time he had the ball in his hands. They don't win that game. They don't even come close to winning that game without Klay. If you heard, Curry basically went up to Klay before the fourth quarter, said, "This is your game, go get it." And Klay said, "Okay," and then went off. So, in my opinion, the Warriors have really not been good yet. I mean, they're winning games, obviously, because they're just that talented and can make so many shots. But we've probably at best seen the B-plus game from the Warriors. If they ever hit their stride and get into their actual talents and play as good as they did in the season, I think they're going to blow the Thunder out if that happens in Game 7. But I think the Thunder blew it more than the Warriors won it, just because I don't think the Warriors had that A game that we were all expecting and still expecting from them. And I think the Thunder basically had the nail in the coffin and just didn't tap it in.
Well, your point about the Warriors not having their A game, I think that's in large part to the fact that we've really seen very low, which is inspiring because he was arguably their most important player besides Steph during the regular season.
Right.
And that kind of interplay between Curry and Green was the key aspect of how the Warriors played this year. It was basically a yin-yang type of thing. Draymond was
yeah.
Oh, he's super aggressive in your face, and Steph was kind of more laid back and hitting the jumpers,
right.
being smooth, and Draymond was the nails, you know?
Right.
And that we haven't seen a lot of the series, and I think that's in large part credit to OKC. They've done a good job neutralizing him with lines. It's tough for him to come out and be Draymond Green. But I think I think a lot of he's the key to Game 7 because like the Thunder aren't gonna have that bad of a shooting fourth quarter again, and they look as good as the Warriors in this series. So I think the Warriors, even though they're at home, they're gonna have to pull something out that they haven't pulled out before.
Yeah, it's still gonna take a big time effort from the Warriors.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is gonna be an awesome game. I would give the edge to the Warriors. I said from the beginning that it would be Warriors at 7, and I'm going to continue to stick by that. So I think they will win, but this is a super interesting matchup that I don't know, most of us weren't expecting to see. Most of us just assumed to be the Warriors and the Spurs, but this has been a really awesome series to watch.
Right. So I would say that, in my opinion, Steph has had one game that he would consider good, which would be Game 5, where he just let the game come to him. I think he ended with 30 and 10 or something. And even he had 39, I think he had 9 assists and 8 rebounds or something in Game 6. So that was a good game, but he didn't shoot the ball as well as he would want to at least.
Yeah, I mean, I think what you saw from him in Game 6 was you saw how effective he can be on defense. Like, I mean,
absolutely.
Towards the end, he was just everywhere. I mean, picking off the inbound passes and stuff. It was crazy. OKC just couldn't inbound the ball.
Absolutely.
Because Steph was sticking to Russ literally. Obviously Russ could take over the dribble because Russ can take almost anybody off the dribble, and Steph is the ball and be a defense guy.
Yeah.
But you can see how shifty he is and how well he can stick to a guy who doesn't have the ball. And that's a super valuable skill, and we saw it from him at the end of Game 6. Yeah,
Russ and KD can laugh about Steph's defense all they want, but he's basically shut down Russell from when he's guarded him in the games, which is almost impossible to do, especially for someone who's 6'1", 210 pounds soaking wet. But yeah, so I would say that Steph probably has had one good game by his standards, maybe not even. And Draymond has been pretty much horrible for the better half of 5.5 games. So with that, and then Sean Livingston, who was probably a top 5 player on the team all year long, has been really, really, really bad this series. So bad he probably shouldn't be on the court. So to have that with 3 of your better players and still be in a Game 7 at home with a good, ESPN has it projected as the Warriors have a 70% chance to win the game. So with everything I just said, and to still have a 70% chance to go to the championship, it's pretty damn good.
Yeah. I mean, I think I played factors in because Barnes is also really bad. But I think
but he's always bad.
Yeah, of course. But I think people haven't been talking enough about Iguodala.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was just about to bring up.
Because he was the first really good guy to come to this Warriors team, and he's actually practically a longtime Warrior at this point. And I think you saw vintage clutch Iguodala in Game 6, and I think they wouldn't have won without any of these things that we've been talking about, Steph's defense, Klay's awesome shooting game. But I think Iguodala was huge. I think you saw kind of a throwback to his days in Philly when he was the best player on a team that made the second round. It's taking over games. He's turned into kind of a super utility player now. But you kind of saw glimpses of the old Andre Iguodala, and that was really awesome to see, I think.
Yeah, and in my opinion, he locked down KD. I mean, his defense has always been his strong suit, really. And that's basically the Warriors want him to make threes and play defense against the best player on another team, and that's exactly what he's done all postseason. So he's been huge, but he's, other than Mo Spades having 20 and 10 minutes some nights, and Verjao brings good energy, Azili, same thing. The bigs for the Warriors have been better than they have all season, which has been kind of surprising. But other than the bigs coming off the bench, Iggy's been really the only one that's made any sort of impact.
Right, yeah, exactly. I mean, they have gotten surprisingly good performance from their bigs, who they haven't had to use that much this season. They've been playing like the so-called death lineup with Draymond at the 5.
Right.
But they've played a couple of games, I mean, I don't know, this whole series really, where that lineup hasn't really been usable because of the big guys OKC has. I think that's the thing in this series that's really interesting, is that for the whole season, Golden State has dictated how the teams set their lineups, and that's not happening in the series. Like, what they've done all year is they force teams to go small, and OKC is saying, nah, we're going to force you to go big. And I think that's been key. I mean, even though the series is tied, I think it's pretty clear OKC has been on the front foot for this whole series.
Yeah.
And still is, even though they've lost the last 2 games. I think they're still on the front foot. Obviously, this game is in Golden State, so they're still the favorites to win, the Warriors are, but, like, I think it's really interesting how, for the first time of anybody against Golden State this year, OKC has really seized the initiative.
Yeah, I mean, the Warriors are the champions, defending champions, and the rule of thumb is you never let the champions off the mat if you have them on the mat. And the Thunder didn't just let them off the mat; they let them stand up and basically choke slam the Thunder. So that's really not what you want to have happen.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, big time players make big time plays in big time moments, and that's exactly what Klay and Steph have done all series long, really. And Russ and KD did for a good stretch, but this is the biggest time and this is the biggest moment, and they went into their shells. And they're going to really need to come out of those shells times about 10 in order to win this Game 7. I expect a huge game from the Warriors. I expect a pretty big game from Russ and KD, too. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a nice little overtime thriller, which would be so great for every basketball fan.
Yeah, I mean, all 4 of those guys, Klay and Steph and Russ and KD, have had moments of being transcendent in this series and moments of disappearing.
Right.
And so, I don't know, I think this Game 7 has, like, a huge impact on just like the potential historical impact of this game, like, in terms of NBA history, is huge. I mean, just the way the series is up, if you think about it, I mean, if the Warriors lose this game, like, their 73-9 teams will be like, well, yeah, they went 73-9, but then they lost the conference finals.
Right.
You know?
And everyone will say, oh, the Thunder might have had the best year or best postseason ever because they beat the 65-plus win Spurs and 73-win Warriors, and then the Cavs. And
right, yeah, and so that'd be a huge legacy for them. I think if Oklahoma City gets to the finals here, I believe they will win the finals. We'll talk about the Cavs in a little bit, but I think that if they can get that one step closer to title, Russ and KD, I think that's obviously huge for them. I don't know, not only in terms of legacy, but in terms of the short-term landscape of the NBA, with whether they stay in the KC or not. I don't know. I'm a little bit tired of this, like, you know, if Curry wants to be considered one of the greats, he has to win the title this year. Like, I think people got to realize that, like, he already has won a title and 2 MVP. Like,
and I think he should have won Finals MVP.
Young. Like, he's got more years ahead of him. He doesn't have to win the title this year to be an all-time great.
Right.
But, like, if he does win the title, then he'll have been the best player on the best regular season team ever and have won his 2nd straight MVP and 2nd straight title. So,
right.
that'd be a pretty big deal.
Yeah, he's got... This team... I mean, Curry's, I think, 27 or 28. Klay's about the same. Draymond's about the same. So, they're up there in terms of age, but not in terms of NBA experience. So, and they're going to be this talented. Shooters don't really get old. Like, you're always going to be able to shoot if you have a good jump shot.
And as Ray Allen has demonstrated.
Right. Ray Allen's 41 years old winning championships. So, this team has the potential to be really good for a really long time if they keep the team together and draft well. So, there's not that much pressure on them, but they're very competitive people. Draymond's probably one of the most competitive players in the NBA. But I think either way, we're going to have a great final. And gut opinion is the Warriors will win this one in the last 2 possessions by 4 points. But I could also see the Thunder winning. I don't think they're done yet. But I'll go Warriors by 4.
Yeah, I think the Warriors are. I think it'll be a little more comfortable. The Warriors by 7. I don't think it will come down to the last possession. But I think it'll come down to OKC definitely having a foul at the end. Like, I think it's going to be close. And I do think that the Warriors are going to win the title again. I don't know. Do you want to talk about the Cavs for a little bit?
Yeah, sure.
Because
go ahead.
They kind of faced a little bit of adversity for the first time in this entire season, really, not just even in the playoffs. They really cooked them through the East. And they were blowing away the Raptors in the first 2 games. People thought, this is going to be just like the Hawks series. And then the Raptors came back and won the 2 home games, which they've been a phenomenal home team and a really bad road team, the Raptors.
Yeah.
But aside from that, like, the Cavs really took that, bounced back, won the last 2 games decisively, and really showed everyone that, like, they were for sure the best team in the East. They confirmed what people were saying. And now that they're in the finals, whoever they end up playing, this is, like, huge legacy-wise for them, I think.
Right.
I don't know, do you think that the Oklahoma City would beat them in the finals?
I don't. I would take LeBron over KD anytime. The only reason I would like the Warriors over the Cavs is because of how team-oriented they are and how much better of a team collectively they are than the Cavs are. But in terms of skill level and players that I would pick to win a championship over other players, I would take LeBron and Kyrie, not even Kevin Love. You can leave him out of it. I would take LeBron and Kyrie over KD and Russ, just because I think LeBron is that valuable and that good in these kind of moments, and he has KD's number for pretty much his entire career.
That's true. I mean, I hear that, but at the same time, if you tell Russ that he's about to face Kyrie Irving in a playoff series, and he gets to have Kyrie Irving guarding him for an entire series, his eyes are going to get so big and pop out of his head.
Yeah, but that was kind of...
Kyrie Irving cannot play defense and does not play defense.
That was kind of the adage of what was being said with Steph, and Steph is really beating the crap out of him, so to speak. And I also think when Russ gets those big eyes is when he's at his worst, because he forces and he rushes himself and doesn't play that well. Like, the shots that he's been taking the last 2 games are completely rushed and just not good shots, which he was not doing the first 4 games. So I personally wouldn't be that worried. You can almost expect Russ and KD to get 70. It's just limit the other players. And that's what the Warriors are trying to do right now, is let them get their 65 to 70 points combined. Let's keep Serge under 15. Let's keep Roberson under 10. Let's keep Waiters under 10. And just limit that. And I think the Cavs would be pretty solid at that. LeBron is a different player in a Game 7 of a finals. LeBron is a completely different player than he is 2 games before the All-Star break. His defensive intensity is insane in the playoffs. And I don't think KD would be obviously score a good amount on LeBron, but I don't think he'd kill him, so to speak. But I mean, the thing that we were worried about with the Cavs was they're all happy and have this great momentum and just good vibes on the team. But what would happen when they face some adversity in the playoffs, like losing these 2 games? Everyone's like, oh, the Cavs are going to just dominate the East, and then they lose 2, and now their series is tied, and they're like, oh, maybe the Raptors are going to win the series. And what do the Cavs do? Come back and win 2 straight games relatively dominantly, and it really wasn't a problem. So I think they responded to that and answered the bell. The only problem I have with them is that it seems like the barometer for them winning is Kevin Love. If he starts out hot, then they play well, and he plays well. If he starts out slow, he's non-existent for the rest of the game, and they struggle. So I don't think that the recipe for success in terms of a title is going to be Kevin Love starting out 3 of 5 or 0 for 5. That's probably not a good thing. So that's a little scary. But the fact that you have LeBron, he's already dominating, and he has that next level he can always get to. That puts a lot of favor with the Cavs.
Yeah, I don't know. The thing with the Cavs, I don't have a whole lot of faith defensively in the Cavs. I mean, obviously LeBron is like an otherworldly defender. There's no doubt about that.
Right.
But against teams with multiple threats, like OKC and Golden State, like he can't be guarding multiple people at once.
Right.
And like, are there any plus defenders in the regular lineup besides LeBron? Like,
I mean, Shumpert could guard Russ.
Yeah, I guess Shumpert plays, but like I think the key for the Cavs is like they're gonna have to shoot threes at a similar level that they did against the Hawks. And if you're playing, I don't know, if you're forced to play Shumpert a lot, then you're not gonna be able to shoot as much. Like I just feel like the trade-offs for them are like they're gonna have to sacrifice either offense or defense with the way the team is constructed, and I don't think they can afford to do either. Right,
but if you JR is not, in my opinion, not a good defender. With being that he like,
I agree with that opinion.
he sticks to his offensive player and doesn't play a lot of help defense. So if you
he's athletic.
Right. So if you just shoved him over in the corner to guard Andre Roberson, that would take away the fact that Roberson can just stand in the corner and shoot basically warm up threes, which is what he's been doing because Draymond doesn't care to cover him, which is fine.
Yeah, the Warriors have tried that against Roberson, and it hasn't really worked.
I know, it's backfired. Right, and I think Kevin Love and Tristan Thompson, whichever you prefer, can guard the combination of Serge Ibaka and Steven Adams or Cantor, or whoever you want to throw in there. I think defensive ability-wise, the Cavs are better than the Warriors in terms of guarding the Thunder, and by ability, but in terms of chemistry and like knowing when to help, where to rotate to, all that kind of stuff, the team aspect of the defense, I think the Warriors are better.
I mean, that's what you're saying. I mean, I think Kyrie, for as awesome as an offensive player as he is, like for the handle that he has, the great shooter, like he's an incredible offensive point guard. He's a really abysmal defender.
Right.
Like, he's not quite James Harden bad, but he's almost that bad.
Right, but he's also a gamer and a big time competitor. So I think all he's going to hear leading up to the game if they play the Thunder is, oh my God, Russ might have 100. He might be Wilt Chamberlain. Like Kyrie can't guard him. Kyrie can't stand in front of him. And that's exactly.
I hope he reacts to that. I hope he shows that in my face, you know?
I mean, Curry did last what was it, last night, 2 nights ago, when Russ and KD were literally giggling at the fact that Curry was an underrated defender, and Curry made Russ eat his words pretty much. So
that's true.
They're NBA athletes. They got there because they're intrinsically motivated. They're very gifted athletes. If Kyrie wants to guard Russ, he can guard Russ. He's not going to shut him down to 0 points, but I mean, he can guard him.
I think the X factor with Russ, and I've heard this mentioned by a couple people in the media and stuff, but I think that the thing with Russ in this Warriors series, and it'd be true in the Cavs series as well, is like, I think Russell Westbrook genuinely believes he's the best basketball player in the world.
Yeah, he does.
Like, he thinks he's better than Steph Curry, and in his head he knows that to be true, even though it's not, you know?
Right.
Like, and so he kind of has this, like, screw him attitude every time he's out there, which is an asset and a liability at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think overall it's mostly an asset. It's turned him into one of the best 5 or 6 players in the league, like this chip on his shoulder mentality.
Right.
But it can get him in trouble, like you said before, where he'll rush shots. And he saw it in the last minute of Game 6, where he's turning the ball over and air balls and stuff. I mean, he doesn't have a monopoly on being sloppy. I mean, like the Warriors were a lot of sloppy.
Yeah.
But it can definitely cause him to make mistakes. So I think we'll see that. I think that applies to both Game 7 tonight and a potential finals if they win tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, either way, we're in for a treat. These are the three of the four best teams. You take the Spurs out of it all year by far. I mean, like, no questions asked.
Yeah,
so
no doubt.
You can't ask for a better final really at all.
Yeah, for sure.
So speaking of final, we have the Stanley Cup Final, which Game 1 will be tonight.
Yep.
The terrible Pittsburgh Penguins that nobody likes against the San Jose Sharks that nobody knows about. So, what a game. At least Pittsburgh is a relatively large area of hockey fanatics, because if it was Tampa, the NHL might have to rethink this one with Tampa against San Jose. So luckily they got Pittsburgh in there. But they're kind of the same style of team. They're both fast, quick, athletic, score a lot of goals.
They have a good mixture of veterans and young guys, both teams do.
Right. Goaltending has been a strong suit for the Penguins, but Sharks are a little shaky with their goaltending. I think this is going to be a quick, high-scoring series, which will help viewership a little bit for the NHL. But I think that the Penguins are...
I think they're scheduling it against Game 7 of the Western Conference Final.
Yeah, that's a problem. Right, that's a problem.
I'm not watching Game 1. I'm watching the Western Conference Finals. Man.
Absolutely. Yeah, this will be about this. Basically, the only people that are watching this game are fans of the team who will probably like switch back and forth during commercials, and people that don't know basketball as a sport, which is slim to none. But I think that I feel like everything is kind of pointing in the direction of the Penguins. They're the hottest team in the playoffs. They're the hottest team coming into the playoffs. They have a lot of experience. Sidney Crosby's been there before. He's done that before. Malkin, same thing.
I think it's true of hockey more than any other sport that, like, if you get hot in the period leading up to the playoffs, it's a huge advantage. I mean, you've seen the Kings do that twice and go to cups with that mindset. And I think the Penguins they remind me a little bit of those Kings teams that have won cups, just like on fire heading into the playoffs and just ripping up everybody in their way.
Right, and I even think of, like, the Capitals last year had to win, like, 20 of their last 30 games just to make the playoffs and ended up beating the Islanders in the first round. Sorry, I had to get that in there just a little bit.
Yeah, I remember that, actually, yeah.
Do you? Do you really?
A little bit too well. At least you won a round this year.
Yeah.
The first time in my life. But yeah, I mean, I've been riding the Penguins with my wallet all playoffs, as you know.
I've been riding everyone but the Penguins, just out of spite.
I've won 2 straight bets with you.
But
the Penguins. We're still even after the Western Conference Finals. I had the Blues and the Penguins. He had the Sharks and the Lightning. So we ended up splitting those bets.
Little bit of props to Jonah for having the Blues and the Penguins pretty much like a month before the playoffs even started. That was what he was saying. So he was close.
I picked 3 of the 4 conference finalists. I had Blue Sharks in the Western Conference Final.
I had 1. The Penguins.
The Penguins, right? But yeah, I mean, I remember I texted you after the Penguins won. I was like, I'll take the Penguins for $5, and then I'm like, actually, no, I won't. I don't want to root for the Penguins.
Yeah, you spent all playoffs kind of doing it.
Yeah. So we have no money on this series. We're both rooting for the Sharks.
Big time.
I can't bring myself to continue rooting for the Penguins. I do like Phil Kessel a lot. It's a shame that he's on a team I hate. But
he also didn't make the USA roster.
Can we talk about that for like 45 seconds maybe? Because I feel like, so the rosters were announced for the World Cup of Hockey, which is happening in September. This is like, the idea is that eventually this will probably replace Olympic hockey as like the main international hockey tournament.
Not with these rosters.
But, I mean, mostly these are like generally like Olympic quality rosters, like all the best players in the league are on them. But for some reason, the U.S. left Phil Kessel off the roster for unexplained reasons. I mean, like, I don't know, you go through the reasons, like, the things people don't like about Phil Kessel, you know, like, he's unreliable, whatever. Meanwhile, he's been, like, the top goal scorer in the playoffs. Like, he doesn't come through in the clutch, but, like, he's been the top goal scorer in the playoffs. Like, he's proved himself to be not just, like, a good goal scorer on a bad team, like he was with the Leafs. Like, he's been a huge part of this Penguins team that looks poised to possibly win a Stanley Cup.
He's kind of an Alexander Ovechkin. I mean, like, just a sniper and really quick, and someone that you're always afraid can score on you.
He is incredibly quick for how beefy he is.
Yes, he's insanely fast.
I mean, he's definitely lost a good amount of weight since joining the Penguins, to be fair.
Right.
Which is another thing. Like that was not going to lose his conditioning. Like, he's in way better shape than he was in the league, and they still left him off the roster. I can't believe it. If they lose, then I'm going to blame it on the fact that Kessel wasn't on the team.
I'm interested to see if I don't know if this has already been said or not, but if it was his choice possibly to not be on the roster.
Maybe he didn't want to play.
Just because of how deep his team has gone in the playoffs and how many games he's already played.
Yeah, maybe the conditioning is only temporary. Maybe he's like breaking down right now. but I think this World Cup of Hockey thing, to talk about that for a second, I think it's a really interesting concept. What they're doing is they're having 6 national teams, which is Canada, the U.S., Russia, Czech Republic, Finland, and Sweden, which are like 6 standard hockey countries.
But yeah, like the 6 best that compete.
Team Europe, which is composed of players from any European country that's not represented in the 4 previous European countries, and having Team North America, which consists of U.S. and Canadian players that are under 25. So I think that's going to be an awesome team to watch play. It's like that sort of young guns team. I mean, like, all these guys that were in this draft, Connor McDavid and Jack Eichel, are on that team. Austin Matthews, who's going to be the first pick in this next year's draft, is on that team. So I think it'll be really interesting to watch those guys play. I think this is a really good idea. I'm really looking forward to watching it.
Yeah, and those are the 6 teams that compete every Olympics. Like, some order of those 4 are going to play in the gold medal, gold medal and bronze medal matches. So, yeah. I mean, that's what you want to see. You don't really want to see, like, Poland go up there and lose 12-0 to Canada. That's not the best hockey.
That's no fun for anybody.
Yeah.
So the Team Europe kind of combines the best players on those bad teams.
Right.
Kind of makes a decent team out of them, which is going to be interesting to watch.
Yeah. So, I mean, every single team is going to be good, and it should be really good hockey. What was the tournament that just ended for hockey? Like the IIHF or something?
Yeah, that's like the Worlds, which is like... It's weird exactly how they make those rosters. Like,
that was like a minimal talented USA roster, right. But we still had Austin Matthews, who played well. So, I mean, there was talent there, but that was Canada beat Finland, and then Russia got bronze, and we got 4th. So that's kind of like probably what a lot of people are going to be expecting out of this World Championships as well.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I'm back to the Stanley Cup. That was like a little bit of a digression there, talking about Kessel, who I love. Yeah, I mean, I think this is really interesting. One little subplot is the Sharks' big 2 veterans, Joe Thornton and Patrick Marleau, were both top picks in the draft in 1998, and are now on the same. They're on the same team now. Marleau spent his whole career with the Sharks. And this is the first time either of them has been in a Stanley Cup Final. So, I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, and I also think with those guys, it's kind of interesting to think that the Sharks might be like the most skilled team that nobody really knows about or maybe cares to know about. Like, you put Pavelski and Thornton and Marleau and Joel Ward and those guys on the same roster, you got some really, really, really good hockey players. And they've had that for a long time, and nobody really knew about them. I mean, they never performed that well in the playoffs, obviously, since this is their first Stanley Cup Final. But I don't.
In franchise history.
Yeah, 100%. I don't think they're gonna throw up a dud, but I also don't think they can beat the Penguins, who just seem to do no wrong at this point in time.
Yeah, I think the Penguins are a little bit too hot for them right now. I mean, the Sharks have had a really good playoffs. They knocked off the Kings easily. They beat Nashville and St. Louis in a couple of hard-fought series. But the Penguins have beaten, like, the Rangers and the Capitals on the way to getting here.
Yeah, relatively easily, too.
Yeah, like surprisingly easily. I mean, and they've had a rookie in goal the whole time, Matt Murray, who they oddly replaced for one of the games in the conference finals with Marc-Andre Fleury, and then reversed that decision.
Yeah,
wisely, I think.
Props to him because most rookies would absolutely not lose it, but not have the same focus and concentration if they were pulled for kind of an inexplicable reason. I know Fleury's a veteran goaltender who's basically been a stalwart with the Penguins for a long time, but Murray got them to where they were, and he's still played really well, even though he got yanked for no reason. And,
yeah, but I think you ride the hot hand. I think you don't panic if they lose a game. Like,
you're gonna lose a game. It's a Stanley Cup Final. You're not gonna sweep the Sharks.
Yeah, I think the worst thing after the Penguins is they drop game 1 tonight, and then it's a whole goalie controversy, and they put Fleury back in, and like, if that happens again, then I don't think that's good for the team, and I could see the Sharks taking advantage of that scenario, because the Sharks are a really good team.
Oh, yeah.
But I think I give the Penguins the edge in this series.
Yeah, I think Penguins win in 6. Kind of, again, like, kind of easily, but not easily. You know what I mean? Like, the same as the last 2 series they've played.
Yeah.
Where they struggle for a couple of games and look like they're not a good team at all and then dominate 4 games.
I can't stand the thought of, like, watching Crosby lift the cup.
I know. And I just want him to shave his beard regardless because I think it looks really stupid. But, yeah, I don't want to see it either. I probably won't watch.
Yeah, and for one of the first times ever, me and you are rooting for the same team in the series. So, this is pretty remarkable.
It comes out of pure hatred.
Yeah, we're both fans of, like, rival Eastern Conference good teams, so.
Right.
So you want to talk about Baylor?
Yeah, so let's get into the meat of the week. So, Baylor this week has had some unfortunate news for them. Really fortunate for everyone involved. Basically, there's a kind of a lawsuit, kind of just a public outcry of some women that attended Baylor that were sexually assaulted over, I think, like a 10-year span.
It was a long time going on, yeah.
Yeah, it was a lot of women, a lot of different names, a lot of different people involved. But basically, Baylor, for pretty much all of Art Briles coaching there, and all of Ken Starr being the president, who's not the president anymore, they have covered up sexual assaults from athletes against Baylor students so badly that it got to a point where Art Briles, who was the head football coach at Baylor, who's in the process of being fired, which doesn't make sense to me. How are you in the process of being fired? Like, just fire him already.
Yeah.
He literally met in his office. He would sit down across a desk from the victim of a sexual assault and the victim's family and tell him he'd help them and, get the, help file charges against a player, whatever. Just do anything he could to help them. And then basically as they turned and left his office, he would shred up documents of what he just said and make it so there was no evidence of anything. Just cover everything up. That's pretty terrible. That's low of scum of not good whatsoever. The Baylor, in my opinion, hasn't responded very well to this. I don't know what Jonah thinks, but we'll let him go first.
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing it proves is that college athletics learned basically nothing from what happened at Penn State a few years ago.
Yes.
This obviously isn't the same situation, but there's definitely similarities in terms of the cover-up and administration involvement and people promising they would help victims and it not actually happening. And there not being any accountability until it was really too late and a lot of people were hurt. And that holds true here, too, I think. I mean, this wasn't just one abuser like Penn State was.
Right, which is probably the worst thing in that case.
Right, and it proves how systematic it was.
Yeah.
Because it was all these different offenders over the course of 10 to 12 years, I think.
Right.
And nothing was done about it. And I think it's a problem in college athletics. It's a problem in high school athletics, too. I mean, you see this stuff happening with high school sports also, where I don't know, where big athletic programs are just not held accountable for their actions because of how much money they bring to the school, how much prestige they bring to the school. And so I think this is part of the increasing and disturbing pattern in athletics.
Yeah, this is more than just a Baylor thing. It's more than just a Penn State thing.
Yeah, I'm sure this is not the only place this is happening.
Yeah, it's completely a society issue because, and I'm 100% guilty of this, sports can basically do anything they want. I mean,
people will continue to watch.
Yeah, if we love the product as much as we do, like you and I love NCAA athletics so much, but disagree with everything that they believe and think. We love the NBA, we love the NFL, everything. But we always are going to watch no matter what they do because the product they put on the court, on the ice, on the field is so good that why wouldn't we watch? So
right, like
because of that, we enable them.
Sports are willing to overlook almost anything.
Yeah, exactly. So we're just enabling them to do whatever they want, basically, because we're not going to be able to look away. So that's it's a society issue as well as just pure stupidity almost with athletes thinking they can literally do whatever they want and that they're completely untouchable. And in Baylor's case, they're taking football victories over lives. That's slightly dramatic, but like you get the idea. Also, before this, I think it was like 3 years ago, Baylor's president, Ken Starr, who was still the president during this allegations of the football stuff, told Brittany Griner not to come out and say that she was a lesbian because they thought that Baylor, being this prestigious Christian school, that people would not attend because Griner, who at the time was an active college athlete, would basically draw bad attention to Baylor and have people not want to go to school. So this school has been obviously having some serious problems with important people, so to speak. But the biggest problem I have with this issue is that there was one man who's been fired for this, and he's not even fired yet, and that's Art Briles. And what about the president that covered all this up and helped? Well, he, instead of being president, is now just chancellor and also in charge of getting funds for the school. If this man ever came to me and like pitched me an idea of why I should support Baylor, I'd probably punch him in the nose. Like, yeah, thanks. You covered up 10 sexual assaults. Yeah, sure, I'll give you $1,000.
Yeah, I think something that's really ironic about this, I hope people will touch on, is that Starr, he's familiar to people who lived through the Clinton administration because he was like the lead investigating attorney on all of the like Bill Clinton affair scandals or whatever. So while he was investigating like potential cover-ups of sexual assaults that like in large part didn't even happen, and he was like, while he was calling out Bill Clinton for doing that stuff, like I don't know, 10 years later he's participating in a cover-up of his own.
Yeah.
So it just shows like the hypocrisy of this whole thing.
Absolutely.
But I think that what it also does is it shows that like as much as we dump on the NCAA, and the NCAA definitely has a role in this and like perpetuating this kind of culture, but like it's the schools and the coaches and the players oftentimes too that are causing this stuff. Like it's not only the big bad evil NCAA.
Oh yeah. The players from athletes that I've been around, whether it's high school athletes or college athletes or even some pros, as actually surprisingly pros seem better than college athletes, probably because of maturity levels, which hopefully most of them are more mature. But they all have a sense of untouchableness or untouchability, whatever you want to call it, that whatever they do, they're going to be able to get out of it or they'll be fine because they're a professional athlete. And yeah,
I have that sense because it's largely true.
Right, because of what we give them.
That's not a mistaken sense.
Yeah, because of the money they make, the viewership they get, the role models that they think they are, which they are, but they're not good at it. There's a mold that people need to follow, that athletes need to follow, and it's that of guys like LeBron James, of guys like Jordan Spieth, of guys like Steph Curry, anyone like that. I've read something about Steph Curry after they got absolutely blown out in Game 4 in OKC. He's walking to the locker room with his head down. He's the only one in the tunnel, and he hears a mom say, "Hey, Steph, can you come take a picture with my son?" And he turns around, and the kid's all decked out in Thunder stuff, Thunder hat, Thunder jersey, and he walks over, stops to take the picture, and she was like, most athletes wouldn't even turn their head or acknowledge me, and he stops and comes to take the picture. And then she says, "Sorry, my son's my son's a Kevin Durant fan." And Steph says, "Yeah, me too. He's amazing." And takes the picture with the kid and signs the autograph and talks to him for a minute. There's athletes that literally would not acknowledge that kid was there, and he just had a terrible loss and comes and does this. So those are the molds you want to follow. And Baylor seems like they have no character whatsoever. Like, they don't have a role model there. They don't have someone that shows them how to be a man. Like, Coach K, Roy Williams, Bill Self, Mark D'Antoni, Urban Meyer, all those kind of guys that are going to teach you how to be a man. Nick Saban. It seems like Baylor doesn't have that. One thing I heard from Kirk Herbstreit, he said that Baylor firing Art Briles is like Facebook firing Mark Zuckerberg. So that just shows you what it means, what Art Briles meant to the school. But
yeah, he turned them from a football afterthought into one of the powerhouse college football schools.
Right, a 1 or 2 win team in the Big 12 to a 10-win team every year competing for the college football playoff. That's what overnight he did that.
It's not quite the Joe Paterno firing, because Joe Paterno had been there for 100 years.
Yeah, the guy doesn't have a statue up yet, but
right. But I wouldn't be surprised if there was going to be a statue if this hadn't happened.
Right.
And so, he was considered one of the best coaches. The Redskins almost hired him when they fired Mike Shanahan, and they hired Jay Gruden for that. I'm sure they're happy about that now.
Yeah.
But I just think I don't know, we've been saying, it's a larger problem.
Right.
And it's one that, we don't know exactly how to deal with it on a larger level. But, if stuff like this continues to get exposed, then the hope is that it'll stop happening. It's just, I don't know, they hoped Penn State would teach these people, and I guess it didn't. I don't know. I think that the interesting next step to see is what the NCAA sanctions are going to look like, because Penn State was hit pretty hard by those. They were almost given the program death penalty.
Right, and
which is banning the team from even playing at all for a certain number of years.
Right, and what I think would hurt Baylor more is that Penn State, it was a coach not acting with players, but acting in his personal interests, which were obviously completely messed up. But this Baylor situation is players doing something wrong, illegal, against the law, any way you want to phrase it.
It went from the bottom to the top.
Right, with coaching covering it up, then administration covering that up, then the president covering all that up and making it go away. It's just a cover job on a cover job on a cover job. And it obviously wasn't done well, because luckily these women felt that they could stand up for themselves and speak out about what happened, and it worked. This all started to come out when a former Baylor player, I believe from 5 or 6 years ago, was tried for sexual assault and rape of another Baylor student. I think it was of a couple, actually, and he ended up getting 20 years in prison. So that shows you how serious this issue has been. If one guy did this and got 20 years, and there's 4 or 5 other guys awaiting trial right now, former Baylor athletes for this, it wasn't just a one-time thing. It wasn't just some kid getting drunk and acting stupid. It was a really serious problem that went on for a long time.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I don't know. It's a good point what you said. I think the reason they didn't punish the Penn State team so much is because the players weren't involved in this.
Right.
But obviously most players are not involved. It's not to say that every Baylor player is a rapist in any way.
Right.
But the fact that this originated with the players, and then went to the coaches who covered it up, and the athletic director, and the school administration. This is a systemic thing with Baylor athletics. And I don't know what the discipline's going to be like, but I'm sure it will not be lenient.
Yeah,
and I hope it isn't.
Right. I really wouldn't be surprised to see the death penalty here. I mean, this is worse than what SMU did by far to get the death penalty. This is probably the worst thing that we've seen really in any sport, not just football, not just NCAA, in any league, any sport. This is probably the worst thing we've ever seen. And hopefully it's the worst thing we ever will see, because it doesn't get much worse than this. This is basically one step short of murder, essentially. But I don't think I still think Baylor doesn't get it. I mean, yeah, you remove the presidency of Ken Starr, but you still let him have major positions in the university. You don't fire anyone but your head coach, who you still haven't fired 4 days after all this comes out. You won't release the names of people in trouble at Baylor who helped to cover this up, and they're still on staff. The entire football team is still on staff. All the coaches are still on staff. Players, same thing. Nobody's in trouble yet. Hopefully they will be, the ones that did things. So it seems like they just flat out don't understand. It's like, oh yeah, we did this. Let's hurry up and make one action to fire Coach Briles, who will make it look like he was the only one who had any involvement, and let's try to keep everything status quo. It's like, no.
Right, they figured if they fired the most high-profile guy, then everything else would just go away. But
yeah, but this is an issue where you need a clean house and start over and make a new university from head to toe, with your administration, to your coaches, to your athletic directors, to your chancellors, to your school administrators. Like, literally anyone that had any knowledge of this needs to be gone, and you need to restart, because if this is what you were doing, you flat out don't understand what it means to be a human, really.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I would ultimately be surprised if the program got anything severe as the death penalty, just because I don't think the NCAA is going to do that. Like, I don't have enough faith in the NCAA to believe that will happen.
That's true.
But I do think there'll be something significant. Like, they'll lose scholarships. I bet they'll get a postseason ban for sure. So I think we're going to see some not insignificant penalties here. And hopefully it'll dissuade teams in the future from doing something similar.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if Ohio State's going to is going to have a 1-year postseason ban for tattoos and paying players a couple $100, I can almost guarantee you Baylor is going to get more than 1 year of postseason ban.
Right, exactly. The priorities are so messed up.
Yeah,
I mean,
but you have to hope that that'll happen, just because. I mean, you already have, I think there has been 4 Baylor recruits who have already decommitted and are reopening their recruitment. You have, I'm sure you're going to have more than that. You're going to have, enrollment won't be the same, I'm sure. You're going to lose things just because this is in the public eye now. But you have to either impose a ban that makes it so that this just doesn't go away, and Baylor can't just sit there and wait it out and just restart with what they have already been doing. You have to make something that's going to affect them from head to toe, because it's not just Art Briles, it's not just football players. I'm sure there's other athletes at that school that have done things wrong with the enabling that the administration gives them. I mean, I'm not even, like, yeah, the players are stupid to do what they did, but they're not even, in my mind, they're not even half as at fault as the administration is for covering up and allowing that to happen. Like, if a player does something stupid, a player sexually assaults a woman, you give them no leeway whatsoever. They're suspended, maybe even put in jail for a month, whatever, something serious. They're not going to do it again, or at least you hope. And if they do, then they have more problems as a human than just like what they were doing. So if you enable them, they're going to do it as many times as they want, because they know they can get away with it. And that's completely the issue of Baylor, with taking the wins over women, over anything really, and just trying to cover this up as long as they can and get as much as they can out of it.
Yeah, I agree.
So hopefully something will change. This is not an NCAA problem, not a one school problem, not a professional problem. It's pretty much a society problem, and it's kind of hitting recent spotlight, probably in the last 5 years, like really coming to the forefront.
Which is good, yeah.
Yeah, so hopefully it's not going to be in the forefront much longer because hopefully it won't be an issue much longer, but it's gotten about as serious as it can get with the amount of cover-up that happened in Baylor and how you're hearing about this with a football player. You mostly hear about football players. I'm sure it's other schools, other teams at other schools, but it's a college issue right now and it's got to stop.
Yeah, I agree.
So we would like to leave you on a happy note, but that's not the happiest of notes. Jordan Spieth.
Game 7 of the Western Conference Finals tonight. It's gonna be an awesome game.
Exactly,
That's the happy note.
Jordan Spieth had one of the best back nines in the history of golf yesterday, so we're in a good spot in a couple sports.
Yeah, we're in a good spot.
Exactly. All right.
All is not lost.
So that's our show for this week. Remember to share it on whatever social media after you listen to it. And thanks for listening.
Yep, thank you.